Good evening. Welcome to the Bennington Select Board's July 22nd, 2019 meeting. Glad to have you here tonight in this pleasant rainy evening. Before we start our meeting, I would like to ask the members to introduce themselves. We're down a couple tonight. It is summer vacation season, but let's start on this side, please.
Bruce Lee Clark.
Jim Carroll.
Good evening, Chad Gordon.
Bill Scully.
Nancy Lyman, Secretary.
Nancy just about has her own microphone tonight. I may have failed to introduce myself. I'm Donald Campbell, the chair of the board. So before we start our meeting, I would like to pledge allegiance, and Bill, I'd ask you to lead us tonight, if you would, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, one and all. So we have a consent agenda tonight. The consent agenda has been before you with the warrants and minutes of July 8th. So I would, for the purposes of discussion, I'd ask for a motion to pass the warrant and the minutes.
So moved.
Anyone second?
Second.
Any discussion about either the minutes or the warrants as offered?
Yes. On page 9.
Of the minutes or the warrants?
Mm-hmm. Minutes, all right. Line 312, that's helpful. It says that the motion carried with Bruce Lee Clark and Bill Scully abstaining. That's not correct. It should be voting no.
Okay, we did correct that. Thank you very much for bringing that up, though. It's good to have that official. Other comments on the warrants? Oh, here he comes, dragging in. Good evening, Stuart. We're happy to have you with us, even if you are 2 minutes late. Stuart Hurd, our town manager, has arrived. Other comments on either the warrants or the minutes of July 8th?
When do you want to address the agenda or upcoming agenda? It was in the minutes about the upcoming agenda. It's now something that's not going to be on the agenda.
I was going to do it after public comment, but if I don't think this is the appropriate moment to do it, but I will mention it as sort of a chair's prerogative after the public comment here. Okay, so all in favor of the warrant and minutes as circulated, please say aye.
Aye.
So that is unanimous. Now we will go on to public comment. And as we know, this is the time of night that we reserve for citizens' comment. And we'd welcome your insights, but because the topics are not warned, this is not a time for board discussion or decision-making. So please state your name when you approach the mic. Refrain from making personal comments and keep your comments to under 3 minutes, if you would, please. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Lynn Mazza. I'm a Bennington resident. I'm here representing a collective of concerned citizens who've been meeting regularly in support of a community oversight board that would investigate allegations of misconduct within the Bennington Police Department. And we've talked about this before, and I'm just wondering, where are we in the process?
We're looking at we're in the final round of the RFP process, and I think probably at our next meeting, Curtis Reed will be joining us, our consultant on this process, and giving a full update at that point. So that's August 12th.
At the next, and that's going to be here?
Yes, they'll be right here, yeah.
Okay,
and he'll
thank
be
you.
here. He'll be here both to talk about the process, to talk about his recommendations, and to answer questions from everybody.
Okay, and that will be a question and answer session. Great, wonderful. There are some concerns about the request for bid process. We're wondering, is there a town procurement policy, or how does that bid process work?
We're in the process of redoing that. Yes, there is a town procurement policy, and we're in the process of redoing it. It will not be on the agenda tonight for reasons I'll mention momentarily, but we're in the process of doing that, yeah.
Okay. So it's in the middle of being reworked. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other kind of broader question is, how do we aside from the select board meeting, how do we go about getting a kind of a seat at the table there within this process? And within this bidding policy?
I would invite you to come on the 12th for sure.
Okay.
I mean, the town is, yeah, I would invite you to come on the 12th.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, thank you very much.
yeah, thank you. Nancy White. Good evening, Nancy.
Hi. I just had some follow-up questions from the last meeting. I just want to make you sure, UCS was here twice last year, July and November, for presentations. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Okay. The plans that we just saw, does anybody know how many parking spaces were on those plans?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's in the minutes.
known.
I'm sorry?
It's known. I mean, we don't have all that stuff committed to memory, but it's in
Okay.
the minutes.
I thought they'd said 20. When they were here in November, it was 29. I just wanted to make sure, now that they've doubled the size of their building, that they will have enough parking spaces. 20 spaces won't do it, but I don't know if I heard them correctly. I also wanted to find out, is the outdoor basketball courts, are they going to be in Phase 1 or Phase 2?
We can answer the last question if you want. There are currently 69, and they'll be adding 25 more spaces on the west side.
I'm sorry?
There are currently 69 parking spaces, and they will be adding an additional 25.
But November, for a 5,500 square foot building, they were going to add 29. They've doubled the building. It seems like they need to be adding more spaces, not taking them away.
It's a difference of 4, right?
Okay.
And nobody knows
So-
about
so-
the basketball courts?
I don't remember if that's phase one.
Basketball courts are there now, Nancy.
I'm sorry, Phase 1 or Phase 2?
They're already there.
I thought they had to take them out to put their drive in place.
No. The
They're going-
basketball courts are on the Coolidge Avenue side of the building. They'll be relocated in Phase 2, but they will not be going away.
Okay, so will UCS be paying to relocate those?
No.
Well, we paid to put them in there. Why should we have to pay to move them?
UCS
Phase
isn't taking them away.
Phase 1 is UCS's project. Phase 2 is a town project that will be funded by grants and town funds.
The UCS project isn't currently impacting the basketball courts. So anything UCS does will not impact the basketball courts.
All right, I thought on Coolidge Avenue, they were going to have a place. Okay. The cost for Phase 2?
Hasn't been determined yet. Phase 2 is speculative at this point, so we're just trying to make a design that will accommodate a Phase 2 to make sure that we don't do anything that prevents us from doing a good Phase 2.
I guess the concern I have, the plans that were shown in November called for a new basketball court, an indoor one at the rec center that we've wanted for 30 years. We were told that it would be relatively inexpensive. Now they came back with all these pie-in-the-sky ideas that there's no way we can afford that in Bennington. And the fact that nobody put the cost out there, I just think that's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. We feel like we answered this question abundantly last meeting and several meetings before that. So I'm sorry you feel that way still, but I really invite you to call Stuart if you have specific questions about things, and we can get you answers. It's not always easy to get you answers like numbers of parking spaces when we don't have the information in front of us. But we're happy to answer your questions, Nancy. We really are.
Okay,
It's just that this is a difficult format for that kind of
Last
question.
November, I believe you were the one that said it's important to get the cost of Phase 2 out as soon as possible.
It is.
That was well, here it's been 8 months. Now you come back with something that is totally, we can't afford that just to staff it. It would drive up the memberships. I think to put that out there without a cost is irresponsible. We were also told in November that it was important that the community would have a chance to comment. When have they had that chance to comment?
There have been abundant chances to comment. There have been a lot of public meetings, and there will be many more.
Where people have been here to answer questions. I
Yeah.
saw the 2 last fall, and they came here and got a lease in May.
Well, I'm sorry you don't feel that's enough,
Okay.
but we do.
Last question, when will we be voting as to whether the Y comes to Bennington?
We have answered this question over and over again for you.
You can't do it without a town-wide vote.
We can.
You vote for select board members every year.
We're representative government.
Are you going to be paying that $700,000 budget?
We are in charge of the budget, yes.
Well, I would strongly recommend you look at what the YMCA is charging people for memberships in Pittsfield, North Adams, compared to what people pay in Bennington.
Nancy,
The programming-
Nancy, we've told you over and over again, and I don't know why you can't hear the answer, but it's the same answer that was done on town meeting day when I asked the town manager. The select board sets the rates for the fees at the recreation center. End of story, period, full stop. We set the rates.
Then you should read the contract that you've signed with the Y. For this year, it says the rates won't go up.
Okay. But the town, I'm going to say it one last time.
And then we're going to
The
cut off
select
question
board,
and answer period.
the select board sets the rates at the recreation center, period.
Nancy, we've answered all of your questions multiple times over. It's getting a little bit repetitive, frankly.
Okay.
So you may ask questions, but starting now, we're going to write your questions down. We'll get back to you at some other time. We have a meeting to conduct here.
Okay.
All right, we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is, before we do that, I would like to apologize for the fact that the purchasing policy is not on the agenda. So when I became chair, I decided to try to do an upcoming agenda item so that we would be able to telegraph a little bit what was coming in the future. The problem with that is that you don't always know what's coming. You know what you hope to get on the meeting, but it's not always possible to get everything on the meeting. So what we've got right now is a situation where we had hoped to have the purchasing policy on tonight, and our finance director, the very competent Melissa Courier, is out. And we did not know that when we proposed having that discussion tonight. So we will start the discussion on August 12th. We will vote on it at our next meeting. And I think we have a little bit of homework to do, Bill, to get that very last item.
Yeah, could I
hammered out.
ask, I'd like to actually ask you that if you propose it on the 12th, I won't be here on the meeting on the 26th, and having worked on that for a while, I'd like to bump that out to a meeting that I could attend.
Let's talk about that.
I think that's why we actually did it this
we'll-
week, was because I can't be here that
Okay,
week.
well, let's roll it out on the 12th, and we'll talk about what we do about the next meeting. Maybe there's a way for you to call in or something like that for that. Let's just talk
fine.
about options on that. So first item on the agenda tonight is to set the tax rates. This is all fairly perfunctory, and we do it every year. But Stuart, would you like to tell us what we're up to now?
Sure thing. This year, we're setting the rates for the general fund, the highway fund, and the fire fund. And just to clarify for the folks at home, the general fund tax rate is a tax rate that is paid by all of the property owners in Bennington, North Bennington, and Old Bennington. The highway fund tax rate is paid only by those folks in Bennington. Old Bennington and North Bennington, the incorporated villages, have their own highway departments and fund their own highway departments. And then the fire fund rate is paid only by those folks in Bennington. The Bennington Rural Fire District charges a tax to its residents, and North Bennington has their own fire department and pays tax there. So when I talk about these rates, they're not necessarily for the entire town, but they're for those people who, as I say in my memorandum, they lived or live in the former village of Bennington. We're proposing this year a 71.09 cent general fund tax rate. It's up 3.8%. We're proposing a highway fund tax rate of 40.54 cents, up 3.8%, and a fire fund tax rate of 8.42 cents, which is up 0.23%. For the total, it would be $1.2491, or 3.5% increase. These are calculated based on the grand list as currently determined by the lister's office following their appeals. So those appeals are set And these rates would be calculated based on the budgets approved by the voters, the grand list as it sits as of theoretically April 1, but we've just gone through the appeal period, and we need a vote, motion to accept these proposed tax increases.
Thank you. All right, so for the purposes of discussion, I'm looking for a motion to set the tax rates as described by the town manager. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Anyone second?
Second.
Okay. Comments?
I just wanted to comment, just because I thank you for answering all my questions about this today. But these are basically rates that were set outside of this board in the past and approved by all the voters. So this is just a formality of turning those budget numbers into a tax rate based on the existing grand list. This is
Exactly.
And thank you for answering those questions today, and to Dan for continuing that today.
And the DID tax rate you're not even setting. This is just informational at this point.
This, yeah, I'll talk about that once we get through these, because it's a different ballgame there.
Stu, you usually have a good contrast and comparison with respect to other municipalities. Yeah. Got anything like that tonight?
No, I don't. Our rates have gone up 3.5% this year. It's probably one of the first times that we have exceeded the cost of living in having to raise our rates. But we have seen some changes in the grand list that were not positive. And unfortunately, that's part of what we have to deal with.
Quick question. So, and a big purchase like the new fire truck, does that live in these numbers?
The fire truck is not included in these rates at this time.
Okay.
Because we haven't purchased the vehicle, nor have we done the borrowing.
Okay.
Voters have approved the borrowing, but we haven't moved forward with it.
Okay.
Other discussion? Comments? No? Okay, in the absence of that, I would ask all in favor of setting the tax rates as recommended by the town staff, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Unanimous on that. Thank you very much, Stuart. The next item of business tonight is the...
If I could,
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Chair, just
DID.
the Downtown Improvement District tax is one that is actually calculated at the time the bills are printed. Our computer system that develops the grand list and ties it to budgets and ultimately can calculates these tax rates uses the grand list at the time for the downtown. It includes only the downtown commercial businesses, not the residential businesses. So it's a calculation that changes depending on what happens as uses in the downtown are converted to commercial or back to residential. That fluctuates. This board approves the budget. When you approve the Downtown Improvement District work plan and budget, you are actually setting the rate in play based on a calculation that the system makes at the time taxes are printed. So this, Melissa can estimate this for you, but that grand list may fluctuate slightly by the time the bills are printed towards the end of August.
And it's our goal to try to do this every May to get the DID nailed down. So we're going to make sure that we have that as part of our annual calendar. So the decision's made in May, and then the formality goes through when the grand list is set. Okay, thank you for that explanation. Item number 5, highway equipment borrowing. This looks like items that have been in the budget. What have you got for us on this?
Yes, we're talking about a tandem dump truck and a John Deere bucket loader. Both are highway equipment that are purchased through the state's highway equipment fund, which is basically a set interest rate of 3%. It does require borrowing, and we generally work with our bank, People's United. In each case, it requires that the note be approved, which is the first document on each of the pages, and that I believe there should be a resolution that's also attached. Yes, and the resolution be waived, or the reading of the resolution be waived and approved. Each packet has 3 places for board signatures as you move through the documents. But these were all approved during the budget process by the voters of Bennington, and we are just now moving through to make the purchases real.
And Stuart, I don't know if I'm being too picky here, but for the purposes of minutes, Nancy, I think that the interest rates are actually 3.1 and 3.15. So
I stand corrected.
that way we won't have to correct it in the minutes later. Maybe. So, thank you. Would you, how should we do this? Do we need separate motions on these?
Well, since they're 2 separate purchases, I would recommend that a motion to accept the note, waive the resolution, reading of the resolution on each of these purchases be made so they are handled separately.
I would move the first, so that
The dump truck is the first one.
tandem dump truck.
Okay.
Okay. And waive the reading of the resolution.
Okay.
But move the adoption of that.
Okay. Do I hear a second on the,
Second.
thank you very much. Discussion. See, we have RJ here tonight, just in case anyone has any hard questions. We have been through this
Actually,
before, though.
I'm sure you all have, and I haven't. Sorry, RJ. I'm trying to learn here. How do you go about the process of deciding which tandem dump truck to get?
I put them out to bid.
I'm sorry, RJ, I'm going to ask you to come to the
That
mic.
means you got to stand and
Yeah.
talk to
This
them.
one on or that one?
That one's on.
They're both.
They're both.
Yeah, it goes out to bid as soon as the bond is, or the vote is in March. So I put them out immediately. I normally get between 3 and 5 bidders, all different brands of trucks. Almost normally, we always go with the low bidder, which is International this year. It's been a while, but yeah, I think it's International. I know it is. And from Delury Sales. I also put out the bodies, which is almost the same amount of money. The bodies are around 80,000. The trucks around 120,000. So they're 2 big purchases. I do that for the simple reason I know who to go after if something doesn't work. Some towns in the past here, they bought the whole truck as a package, and you didn't have that person to talk to when the equipment went bad. But yeah, there's quite a market. There's quite a few vendors who do the bodies and the trucks.
Good. Thank you, Dan.
RJ, what do we get for frills on these things? I'm just curious, and I think the general probably is, I hope we get cup holders.
Do we get cup holders? Yes. Yeah, I don't know. It's no fancy bells and whistles. I suppose the fancy stuff is the computers inside that run the salt and the liquid. It tells you it calibrates everything. That I think almost every truck except for a couple now, one that's being traded in this year, you can plug it in the computer and it'll tell you how many road miles it puts down, how many tons it puts down. It's a computer in the truck that runs that equipment.
It's great, thank you. RJ, we appreciate you being here. I guess I would just say to the board, I know, especially having 2 new board members, a light component of people here tonight. I know it's somewhat difficult, but we do go through, during the budget process, we go through this very, very carefully. And you've been to the town highway garage, Bill. You've kind of seen the inside workings. I would certainly encourage you to at some point, Bruce. But this is part of a capital plan that rotates out machinery on a logical basis so that we don't run stuff down and get ourselves in such a deep hole that we have to get out all at once. And so this is part of an ongoing plan to try to keep machinery moving in and moving out and get the best of that machinery. And RJ does a great job with that. So I'm especially appreciative for the time that you've taken to walk us through it. And I apologize that you 2 haven't had the benefit of it this year, but you will this winter during our Saturday budget sessions. So.
Ask a quick question. Are you satisfied with the bid you got versus what you estimated in the budget?
Yes, yep.
Great,
It was pretty close. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was just under.
great, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, by going by the capital plan is we're getting better and better trade-ins also. Under 10,000, I think, 10 years ago when I started, and we're over 50,000 this year for trade-in, so it's made a difference to keep on top of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, thank you very much. Other comments? No other comments? All right. Well, in the absence of other comments from the board or the citizenry, I would say all in favor of this motion to accept the note and waive the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. I am now looking for a motion to accept the second note.
I'll make the motion to accept the second note for, I think it's 145,885, and waive the reading.
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
Actually, can I correct that, Bill? It's, the
might have been
second one is the bucket loader, that's 135.
135, 100, yeah.
Gotcha.
I was
I'm on the
struggling
wrong
with that
page.
myself.
Thanks,
Okay.
Stu. So yes, I'll make the motion for 135, 100, and
That's
waive
great.
the reading.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Correction. Okay. In the absence of any further comments, I'd say all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous.
And I will
Thank you very much.
circulate these for signature as the meeting continues.
So we are going to ask you, Stuart, for a manager's report.
Thank you. I do apologize for being late. I got involved in something at home and totally lost track of time. I think this is my first late meeting.
It's your first tardy.
Yes.
Mark him down.
Yes, I know.
Who's the teacher
You've
here?
already been marked.
Thank you.
You get 4 more and then you get adopted.
Thank you
Get
very
lunch
much.
detention.
Lunch detention.
Well, I feel like I've been detained already. Anyway, the first issue is property at 217 Washington Avenue. We have owned that now for more than 2 years. It was a property we took at sale, thought we had it sold, but the buyer turned out to be not credible. We ended up with an eviction issue. Following that, at any rate, we have now decided through our efforts to try to find some interest in the property that we would like the board to understand that we would propose to go to an auction with no reserve, which is what we did on Pleasant Valley Road, which basically Dan and I will conduct the auction as a public auction. We'll have a viewing of the residents and simply open the bidding at whatever we can get for it. We've now invested approximately $40,000 in the building, counting the delinquent taxes and improvements we've had to make to the building. We had to tear down a couple of dilapidated structures in back. We had to clear the building of all of the material inside the building that had been left behind. But we can't afford to sit on the building in perpetuity. So I'm proposing that we do go through that process once again. It was successful in Pleasant Valley Road, but I think that property was in a little bit better shape than this is.
We did have a little, I think we tweaked the approach to that a little bit on Pleasant Valley, didn't we? So if the town didn't receive its...
That's right, that's the no reserve clause. There'll be no minimum bid.
Yeah, but I think on Pleasant Valley, we went back and the one bid that we had was too low, and we felt that given that it had not reached the amount of money that the town was owed, we were able to still market it.
But yes, you're right, but during the public auction that was conducted by the manager's office, there were actually 2 bidders, and we ended up selling that property for in excess of what was owed, if I'm correct. And I don't know whether we'll get that same kind of interest in this particular building. Structurally, it's, go ahead, Dan.
I mean, we're essentially following the policy that the board set for that particular property.
Yeah.
Said that anytime going forward, when we don't receive full value to cover all of our costs from the bidding process, that we go ahead and do a no reserve auction. So that's what we were unsuccessful in the bidding process, so we'd like to go to a no reserve auction based on
Right.
your policy.
Right, okay.
There is a policy by the board, or is there a practice? I mean,
No, this was a
Policy adopted by the board.
This was a policy adopted by the
Yeah.
board.
I was looking for it, and I just couldn't find it.
Oh, I think it's probably, we'd have to dig it out of the minutes and
Okay,
get it to
yeah.
you.
Now, after the auction, the board has to accept the bid, correct?
Yes,
So at that point, if we're not happy with it, we don't have to accept it, we could go and try this process again?
that's true.
Yes.
So that's the first step. On the PFOA project, I really have nothing new to report. I know that the staff has been very busy preparing for contracts 1, well, it's actually 5, 6, and 7, which will move this project forward. I don't know that we've seen any work start in the field at this point, but we are getting very close. As I indicate here on the Morgan Spring delivery system, the purchase has been postponed. We did find some asbestos in an old furnace that's in the garage on the site that must be dealt with before we acquire the building. Dan and I had a lengthy conference call with the new vendor. I think it's Premium Waters, and they are interested in participating. We haven't arrived at a conclusive amount at this point. They're doing some additional due diligence. So we will proceed to the purchase when the time is appropriate, and we may have a financial partner in the construction. On the opioid lawsuit, once again, Dan and I were in a lengthy conference call with the attorneys who are representing a number of other clients. These are the folks from Virginia who reached out to us early on in the process. They have reviewed, and Rob has reviewed and amended their retainer agreement to address our concerns about some of the language there. And Rob, as of late, I believe it was late Friday, has recommended that we sign the agreement. I just wanted you to know, since we have clear authority to proceed, that we will be proceeding in that particular lawsuit. And they will begin the process in state court.
Based on a vote of the select board that happened, I think, last November, right?
That's correct.
Right.
And I did send that out to you all again, the
Yep.
copy of the minutes. And then in answer to the question that was raised last week about the cost to operate the DPW facilities, this is a follow-up. The cost for electricity has been budgeted at $40,000 for FY20. In FY19 through May, we spent almost $32,000, so not a dramatic difference. In FY18, we spent $30,000, so there has been an increase over the two buildings by merging into one, but we are still, I think, tinkering with the system to try to make sure that it is more efficient, as we expect it will be. The cost for fuel is also budgeted at $40,000 in FY20. In FY19, we spent $32,400. And oddly, in FY18, in the two older buildings, we spent $38,200. So cost of fuel fluctuates, so you're going to see ups and downs there. But I think that, yes, this building is most likely in the long run going to cost more to heat and to provide electricity to, but it's not substantially different from what we were at in the past. And I think that was the concern raised by the individual at the meeting last time. And that individual has been notified by letter of the same information. And that's all I have.
All right. In agenda setting, so in our annual calendar, the only thing we have is the tax bills are mailed. November 10th is the adoption due date. We also have in our calendar, we have quite a lot up for the next meeting, Stuart, and we may need to work on this. Because the purchasing policy was pushed off from tonight, we have potentially that first reading of the purchasing policy. We had talked about having the BCIC come and give their report. Do you know, Dan, if they're ready for that?
That's what they indicated.
First meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. It would be good to hear from them, hear about Putnam Block, hear, I think, their questions. We've also talked about interviewing the Energy Committee candidates or beginning the interview process. I'm not sure we do
Yes.
them all in one night, but could we interview some of them, or is that?
I would recommend that you pick an off night, not a meeting night, to try to do that.
And do them all
Do
in the
them
same
at the,
evening?
yeah, in the conference room at the town offices. It would be, I think, it would be much more cohesive if you do it that way.
Is that the preference of the board?
That's the way.
How about a Monday night, an off Monday night?
That works for me.
Okay. Let's try to schedule that by email if we can.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Stuart, if you'd be willing to take the lead on that, that'd be great, thank you. We also will be having a presentation from our consultant, as mentioned earlier, Curtis Reed, who'll be talking about the evaluation of the police department and where we are with that RFP.
That's correct.
Is it anticipated that he would have, or that we would be at the point of
Yes.
Yes.
Making a decision.
Making a decision?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And we would be making it, or is?
No, that is a board decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll address some of the legal contract issues in executive session this evening.
Okay.
So that leaves for August 26th, a possible visit with the YMCA. And Bill, you're going to be absent for the 26th, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's maybe talk about whether we do the purchasing policy after the next meeting, and if there's a way I can just,
Okay.
call in or write
That'd be
in
great.
or.
Okay, that'd be gret. Love to have your input on that, since you were a really big part of helping us do that.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it, so.
Other things from the board members? It's a pretty full agenda next meeting, so. Okay.
And Donald, may I remind you that Jonah Spivak wants to come and make a presentation on Vermont's bicentennial.
Was that on the 26th or the 12th? I thought it was the 26th.
I think it is the 26th.
Yeah.
That's the 26th.
Thank you, Mike. He's one of the supporters.
Colonial man.
All right.
Can I make just a suggestion for something that we could put on, or at least think about?
Mm-hmm.
And that is, as I was going through trying to find, I thought I had remembered a vote about the other property, about how to create a policy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I'd like us to sort of try to figure out as a way to put all of this policy, board policy stuff together in one place that would be available to the public and also available to us when we need it. I don't know, it's just my compulsion for neatness, which don't anybody, if my wife is listening, she shouldn't laugh at that, because I don't have it.
And generally, we do have.
I know there are
all
some.
of those, all of the board policies. This one, this most recent one was developed by the board at a select board meeting.
Yeah.
And we haven't moved it into the formal process.
So I'd just like to see if we could go through and make sure that we got everything covered in one spot, and that that's also accessible to the public.
Excellent. Why don't we start that as being the first part of other business? And you have any other business besides that for us?
Nope. Just in terms of just reminding folks that they may want to be out at the Four Corners on Saturday at 10:30 for an event, including 4 pianos and who knows what else all. So I just, this is in celebration of Summer Sonatina's 50th anniversary, and I would hope that as many of us who find it possible on our Saturday mornings to be out somewhere at 10:30, we find our way at Four Corners.
Jim, anything from you?
Yeah, just one thing. There was a program on NPR and VPR this past week about kids not getting lunches and dinners, and breakfast for that matter, during the summer months. And I wanted to remind people that they can that St. Peter's here in town does provide free food for kids and teens, and you can also find additional locations if you call 211 or text Meals Vermont to 877-877. There's no application or registration, no fee. The meals are free.
Thanks. That's good. Chad?
Yeah, Jim, thanks for bringing it up. The Abbey Group does a great job with that, and it's something I even hear my football players talking about. So, Stuart, just a quick, I think there was a technology snafu with my email, and I don't know if it's been corrected. I'm getting individual emails, but I know.
Yes, it has been corrected.
It has, thank you.
Apparently, when we removed Carson, we accidentally removed you.
Wishful thinking. All right.
One of those snafus that
Thank
does
you.
happen.
I know a lot of emails got forwarded to me. Dan, thank you for getting stuff to me, so I just wanted to make sure it was corrected. Thank you.
Because Jean isn't here, I'll thank you for the follow-up in the manager's report, because I think she asked you to start doing that if you could. So
Yes.
I did notice that, and I appreciated the follow-up too. I was
Second
curious
that.
about that when it was asked. I had some time to talk to a few people, including Rose, who took some time at the Y to talk about the concerns of some of the seniors, and actually it was very insightful. And one of the things I thought that especially in talking to Rose and a couple other people, was the need to do some improvements and to figure out how to do some improvements at the rec center. And I think that we have some opportunity here. I think Rose and I both agree that we want to know what it's going to cost, but we think that there's a lot of value in figuring out how to make those improvements. I hope I'm not misquoting Rose. I'm sure I'll hear about it if I am, but no, but I think we both really appreciate that facility and think it's a good investment for the community. We just want to know more about what it's going to cost and how we can make that happen. So.
Okay. Unless there's any other business, we do have a need to go into executive session tonight. I'm looking for a motion to go into an executive session on a legal matter.
So,
All right, second, anyone?
Aye, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please?
Can I just ask?
Yep.
We are not going to be asked to take any action, correct?
No action.
We are not taking any action. Right.
I'm going to try to make sure we clarify that each time, just so that we know, so we're all comfortable with that. Yeah, that's.
Okay, okay. All in favor of going to executive session? Say
Aye.
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 Okay.